Welcome to my review for the original Piranha film from 1978. This one was directed by Joe Dante, who went on to do The Howling, both Gremlins films, Inner Space, very good director back in the day. I didn't come to this film because of Dante though, I came to it because I really enjoyed the two modern day Piranha films and thought, you know what, I'm going to go back and watch the old ones. So the story for this sees a group of people stumble across an abandoned military installation in the woods somewhere. I don't know which state of America this is meant to be set in. I know where it was filmed, just not where it's meant to be set. I'm guessing somewhere up north, like an Oregon type state maybe, I just don't know. So inside this abandoned military post is a creepy looking pool which has these genetically modified piranha inside. I don't know why the army have just abandoned this place but left the piranha, but it's not long before the characters inadvertently release the piranhas into the local streams and rivers, and potentially they could take over the world. Oh no. Now I must admit, as much as I can appreciate the more modern day Piranha films with all the boob shots and over the top gore and Christopher Lloyd being all zany, this older installment is much more up my alley. It just has an adventure quality which the 2010 and onwards Piranha films don't have. This is the sort of film I can watch late at night in my bedroom with my quilt up to my chin and know that I'm in the best environment possible for watching the movie. Whereas I think some of the later Piranhas are better off being watched in the cinema with your mates, maybe with a beer in your hand and you're cheering half the time. Now that's fine, I enjoy nights out like that. The trouble is they're quite hard to replicate with consistency. I think a film needs to be at its best in the home because that's where you're going to be watching it the most. This is why I don't like watching 3D films that much, because once 3D films have left the cinema, they've already left the place where they were going to be at their best. But anyway, getting back to the 78 Piranha, it really suckered me in from the start because there's a pre-title teaser where we get to see a young couple break into the military installation I was talking about earlier, and obviously they get killed by the piranha. But it was at this point that I realised that having more old style special effects and practical effects for this wasn't going to be a problem, because seeing the young couple dying with their heads just above the water, they're sort of good, and there's red spreading around them, that was fine. Didn't need the sort of extra shots under the water of penises getting bitten off and the stuff you see in the more modern ones. I do love the military base in this film, by the way. It's creepy at night, as you'd expect, but it's also creepy during the day. It's not an expensive set either. I think they've basically taken an abandoned summer camp, or at least a vacant summer camp, dropped a few oil drums in there, added a chain link fence with a warning sign on it, and boom, you've got yourself something that could be passed off as a military outpost in a horror film. Simple but effective. There are also some great details inside the building. So there's this rat maze that the characters walk past. I mean, literally a rat maze. You know, you drop a rat in and it has to find its way through the maze to get to a piece of cheese at the far end, and a scientist will time this for some reason. If you've seen the film Tango and Cash, you'll know what I'm talking about. Well, the rat maze in this film has been adapted for Piranha. It's got water in it. Now, sadly, we don't get to see it in action, but I would have loved to have seen the Christopher Lloyd character from the modern day Piranha films have a stab at this. I can just picture the expression on his face. Hasn't gone down a single dead end yet. Remarkable. Also in the science labs at the military outpost is this weird creature walking around on two legs. It's got nothing to do with the piranha, but clearly the army have been experimenting on more than just fish. Now this has nothing to do with the main story, but again, it's just a nice little touch that adds a bit of depth, something else to talk about. I liked it. The piranha, by the way, make this weird thrumming noise when they're swimming around. It's something like... Actually, it sounds nothing like that. I can't replicate it, but it's quite freaky. I could easily imagine it scaring younger viewers. Thankfully, I'm 40, so it doesn't have the same effect on me. Absolutely, though, real piranha would not make this noise, I'm sure of it. The two main heroes in the film, Paul and Maggie, are absolutely terrific. Paul is sort of an anti-hero. If Han Solo was in a horror film, this is what it would look like, I guess. Maggie plays some kind of PI sent to investigate the disappearances of the kids who get killed in the first reel. Our introduction to her is watching her play some kind of shark arcade game, which immediately made me warm to her. I thought that was a genius introduction. They've got a really cute relationship, Paul and Maggie. Paul's really grumpy. Maggie's all business-like. Normally in a film with two characters like this, they would hate each other at first and then gradually warm up to each other as the story wore on. But in Piranha, they get on straight away. I found that really cool. And the two actors who play these two, I've never heard of them, but they're really good. Bradford Dillman plays Paul. Apparently he was in a couple of the Dirty Harry films, The Enforcer and Sudden Impact. I used to really like those films. I don't remember him being in them. He plays a cop, a different cop in each one. Next time I watch them, I'll definitely keep an eye out for him. Heather Menzies, I've not seen in anything. She had a really good career for a while, although she stopped acting around about the age of 40. I don't know why. Both of these two died quite recently, actually, in the last 2 or 3 years. Very sad. But in this film, together, they have the most amazing chemistry. They are absolutely terrific. And it made me a little bit sad, actually, that they don't get together towards the end. It just goes to show that you don't have to have 21-year-old kids playing the lead roles in every single horror film, because I think Paul's character is meant to be sort of in his mid-40s, he's a divorcee, and Heather Menzies must be sort of mid to late 20s. It's definitely a film of two halves, this. So in the first half, Paul and Maggie are mainly going around investigating and occasionally stumbling across a dead body or a kid on a raft who needs rescuing. It's all very low-key, but the whole sandbox of the world expands hugely around about the halfway point. So the army get involved. There's this group of summer campers who are in big trouble. Then a bit further down the lake, there's this festival going on and there's dozens of people in the water thrashing around and getting dragged down and stuff. You can definitely see where the latter-day Piranha films got their influence from when it came to this movie. It's the last half an hour. I don't think they took any notes from the sort of slow burn first hour, but I prefer that first hour because there's more of Paul and Maggie's relationship. They don't really communicate anymore in the last half an hour. They're too busy running around, saving the day, being all silent and even apart in some scenes. There's a typical dickhead mayor in the mix, very similar to the mayor from Jaws, which came out just a couple of years prior. He does not believe that there's piranha in the water because it's economically beneficial to him not to believe, but eventually he has to, because in a very funny moment, his intern taps him on the arm and says, "Sir, piranha," and he's like, "I told you I didn't want to hear any more about piranha." And then the intern says, "But sir, they're eating the guests." A very funny moment. That mayor, or he might be a festival owner rather than a mayor, he's played by an actor called Dick Miller, who you might remember as the gun shop owner from Terminator, and he was in Gremlins as well. He was in a lot of stuff from the 70s and 80s that most people would have seen, just not necessarily remember his name. He's very good. The ending is a bit of a mixed bag. So Paul and Maggie don't get together, as I've already said, but there's nothing to say that they don't get together off screen necessarily. It's all kind of left up in the air. We don't even know if Paul's going to survive his injuries because he gets chomped on quite badly in the finale, though he is at least lucid the last time we see him. Come on, guys, give us an epilogue for some of these movies. Characters like this deserve it. Another thing, and I'm not necessarily saying that it's a criticism, but the way that they take out the piranha ultimately is a little bit dubious. So there just happens to be this convenient sewage building a little bit further down the river, and inside this building is a convenient wheel, and if you turn it, this will conveniently release lots of wastage stuff into the water which will kill all the piranhas but not hurt any of the humans. This being the same movie where earlier on at the military base, Paul and Maggie release the piranhas into the wild by flicking this convenient switch on the wall, which the army have just left there for anybody to come along and flick. I like the closing shot of the movie, though. After we've seen Paul and Maggie for the last time, we cut to one last little bit where this woman from the military is speaking to the press, and she's basically saying that the piranha problem has been taken care of. She does this with a politician's smile. And then we cut to the west coast of America and the ocean looking very orangey, and the possible suggestion is that if there's a sequel, it's going to be at sea. And we can even hear the thrumming of the piranha to indicate that a few of them did escape. Now, I've not seen any of Piranha 2: The Spawning. I've not read anything about it. So hopefully, though, it will be at sea, because I think that would be a nice change of pace from the rivers and the lakes of this film. Okay, now on to the genuine criticisms, and I'll start by saying that the army are way too goofy in this film, right down to the way that the general falls in the water at the end. I mean, he might as well have gone, whoa! I would have made the whole military presence in this film much more sinister and foreboding, turn them into a secondary antagonist after the piranha. My next thing to mention is this weird tangent that the plot goes on about 2/3 of the way through. Paul and Maggie get thrown into a police cell, and we spend a few minutes watching them trying to get out, and Maggie bashes a cop over the head with the top of a toilet seat. And I just think that you could have taken this whole section out because it adds nothing to the film. It's very different to the rest of the movie. Thirdly, there's a weird scene where we follow this speedboat travelling down the river, and there's two women sat in the front, and they're sort of towing this guy on like a jet ski thing, and the women are slowly increasing the speed of the boat just to tease the guy, and I'm thinking, oh, this isn't going to end well with piranha in the area. It's going to be carnage candy ahoy in a minute. But then we just cut away from the speedboat after a massive bit of setup, and we never go back to it. We cut to another boat quite close by, which crashes into another boat, and there's a big explosion. I'm thinking, okay, that's a nice little set piece and a bit of money well spent, but what about the speedboat? all that being said, I really did enjoy this film. It grabbed me right from the off and didn't let me go. Yes, there are things wrong with it. I mean, if you absolutely wanted to criticise this film, you could feast on that stuff all day long. There are probably things wrong with this film that I didn't even mention, but it was certainly up my alley. And I'm glad I took the risk in buying it. I went out and bought a Blu-ray. It cost me like £25, which is quite expensive for a Blu-ray. That's probably like over $30 in America, but it was a gamble worth taking because this will definitely go onto my shelf next to the more modern day Piranha films. I'll definitely go back to it in the future. So let's get to the bag of terror and find out what sort of score we've got today. Oh, he's got a bit stuck. Let's help it out. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 3.5 bloody axes for the original Piranha from 1978. That puts it level with Piranha 3D from 2010, but if you absolutely twisted my arm, I would probably plump for this one in a clinch. Right, I'll be back soon with a review for Piranha 2 The Spawning, I believe it's called, which was sort of directed by James Cameron, at least for a while. I think he got taken off it halfway through. It'll be interesting anyway. Until next time, cheerio, bye-bye.